welcome to this special roundup show. We decided that we would do like an end of the month roundup show for Deadly Debbie's Creepy Files, where we basically introduce ourselves and we talk about the stories that we really enjoyed from the whole of the month and what we liked about them. So to introduce myself first, I'm Lucy. I'm the producer of Deadly Debbie's Creepy Files, and I would like to introduce you to my co-producer, David. David does the sound mixing on the show, and he edits the sound effects, as well as helping me with other parts of it. So David, if you'd like to introduce yourself, say hello.
I'm David, and I do everything which you just said. So yeah, I make the atmosphere. I make the Creepy Files creepy with the atmosphere and the sounds. So that's my job.
Okay, so I want to ask you, David, three interesting facts about yourself.
Do they have to be interesting? It'd be a lot quicker that way if they wasn't.
Well, maybe at least the first one could be interesting.
Yeah, all right, okay, fair enough. Interesting things. I'm a filmmaker and I make music videos for an 80s artist named Roxy Drive. You might have heard of her. Also make some other bits and pieces, video stuff. I'm a horror writer, a published horror writer. I've got 5 books out right now, and there's going to be 2 more coming out this year, which are all, like I say, horror, paranormal, that kind of stuff. And a third interesting fact. Let me think. What could be a third interesting thing about me? I suppose I'm tall. There you go. I'm extremely tall. I'm like 6'8", 6'9", depending on what day of the week it is.
Yeah, you are very tall, aren't you?
I'm a very tall person, which is very handy for when you're doing filming stuff, but it's not a very handy thing in everyday life because I've knocked myself out twice. So there you go. That's I suppose you could say that's interesting.
And nothing fits you, does it? Like furniture and things like that.
A fourth interesting thing, nothing fits me like furniture. Yeah, it's a fact. I can't sit in chairs. I used to sit in chairs at my sister's house, like round like the dinner table chairs, wooden chairs, and I think I blew out about 3 of those. And she wasn't too happy about that. Just sat down in them and went straight through them because I just can't sit down properly. And when I write horror books, when I write anything, I'll do it in bed because I'm just laid down and laid out, and it's just much more comfortable. And everything I've got in my house, you can basically lay on rather than sit on. So, yeah, there's fun fact number 4.
So now everyone's...
Go on.
So now everyone's picturing an extremely tall man that can't sit down, can't do anything.
Yeah, now everyone's picture some giant freak of nature that lays in bed writing horror books. So yeah, thanks internet, appreciate it.
Okay. So, moving on. Dave...
I want to know about you. I want to know about 3 interesting things about you. And one of them can't be your Deadly Debbie because I already know that, and everyone else does.
Oh, actually, I don't think I've actually addressed that with anyone yet.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't think I've addressed the fact that I do Deadly Debbie's voice. But yes, I'm a voiceover artist, and so that was partly why I wanted to do a podcast because I knew that I could do the stories and I could create a character and do the voice for her. So yes, I do the voice for Deadly Debbie, which I really enjoy doing. And she's just a great character. Yeah, I really enjoy doing that. And so I guess, yeah, so the voiceover artist thing, I used to be an actress. So I did that for a few years. Yeah, that's just some of the stuff that I do as well as this. Now what I wanted to ask is, David, why do you like the paranormal?
Because I don't like the normal.
Yeah.
I think there's more than what we understand, and that's where my interest in the paranormal kind of comes from. I think I don't know where it is now in the list of things, but I actually did a story for the Creepy Files. Didn't I? I've read a couple of stories, but I had my own story on there as well.
Yeah.
Is that out yet? I don't think that's out yet. Is it? That's
we
not.
Haven't got to
No.
that one yet.
No, but that's going to be coming out at some point. But yeah, I've seen odd things, but I'm healthily sceptical about everything. I don't want to go around thinking, believing everything I see here or find out about. I think there's more to things than we know. And sometimes I don't want to put a label on that because I think labelling it is making you think it's one thing when it could be something completely different. So I'm very open-minded to stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just something that I've always been drawn to. It's just something different. It's like wild right horror books, basically. It's of course I like all the horror films and all that business. And most of those, I mean, I like the slashers, like the American slashers and all that, but I do like the paranormal stuff because it's stuff that could easily more happen to anybody. Like you walk into a house and something odd happens, and the first thing you think is, oh, well, what was that? Was it something odd that happened, or was it something else that happened? Well, I can't explain. Could it be something paranormal? Could it not? So it all kind of feeds into itself. And I think growing up living in the middle of nowhere, you just living in a place like that, living in a farm when I was a kid out in the middle of nowhere, you do see some odd things that you can't explain. And I think that fed into it. So as I grew up, like from that to the horror books to the horror films to me becoming a horror writer to starting this podcast, it all kind of feeds into itself, really. Why do you like the paranormal, Lucy?
Why do I like the paranormal? Well, I have always been interested in the paranormal. I think I got it from my mum, to be honest. I remember her showing me some books at quite a young age that her sister had given her. They were books on the afterlife and all of the different, I can't remember what they were called now, but I found them fascinating. They were all about the different realms and levels of the afterlife, and it was all sort of near-death experiences that people had had, and I was just really fascinated by the whole thing, and I started looking into it, and I looked at mediums, famous mediums like Rita Rogers. I ended up buying her books.
Derek Cora?
Yeah, Derek Cora was a recent one that I actually got into, which was surprising because I remember the show being on and I wasn't really that into it. But I know we started watching it recently, didn't we? But yeah, I just love it. I just love, it's like that thing, isn't it? Everyone likes getting scared in the safety of your own home and watching horror movies, and it's exciting, it's fun. But for me, it's more about the paranormal rather than slasher kind of stuff that you like. I like the kind of the hauntings and ghosts and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just something I've always been interested in, and I love hearing other people's real experiences. It really fascinates me. So yeah, that's why I love doing it for the podcast.
Do you think? I think that was a good answer, because if Derek was listening, he's going to be very pleased you didn't slander him in any way. Like most people do.
I wouldn't slander Derek. That would be very rude. I like Derek. He was a real character, and I liked him.
Yeah, like when we go back, like I remember Most Haunted when it was on in the day, and I remember it. I was just thinking it was just cheese, pure cheese. I was like, if you believe this, you must be an idiot. But then going back to and watching some of them, let's be honest, some of it's pretty bad. Some of it's just like over the top for the sake of it. Like you just imagine, oh, there was a creak on the door. Oh, there was a knock on the floor. Oh my God, there was something at the window. Like you could do this all day long. Like how bad it goes.
Just so our listeners know what we're talking about a show called Most Haunted. It was a show in the UK, so I don't know how many other countries have seen it. I don't know if in the US they've seen it, because a lot of our listeners
if you've got Amazon, it's on Amazon. You can go on and watch it. It's on.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, and is it on Netflix? Did we watch it?
No, it's Amazon. It's all Amazon, isn't it? Yeah.
It was Amazon.
Netflix wouldn't go near that. Let's be serious. They got plenty of other crap to play, let alone that.
Okay. So yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, and the premise is that there is a lady who hosts it, and oh God, what's her name? I'm going completely blank now. Yvette Fielding. Yeah. She's a kind of a well-known presenter. She was she presented a TV show when we were growing up here, and it's her show actually. She produces it with her husband, and we didn't know that when we started watching it. It was only when we looked into it. And then they go to a different haunted location every week for every episode, and they go with like their crew, a small crew of people, cameraman, sound man, and then they have a medium who goes with them. And the medium they have for the first few shows, well, for the first few seasons actually, is a guy called...
First 5 seasons, isn't it? He's on 5 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, quite a few seasons, and he's called Derek Cora. Now he's sadly passed away recently. I think it was only last year, actually. But
yeah, it was like before all the crap hit the fan with like everything in the world. Now it was just, I think it was January 2020. Like, wasn't that long ago?
Yeah, it was really recent. And do you know what? Like he was kind of a bit of a funny character in the UK. We used to regard him as a little bit of a joke, really. People would sort of take the Mickey out of it at him and stuff.
I can feel spirits in there's spirits in this room. They're coming
because. Well, he's Well, he's a Scouser, isn't he? He's from Liverpool. And he's got that great Scouser accent, which I like, and I think that gives him character. And he's just a character at the end of the day. He's a larger-than-life guy. He walks in and he gets all of these kind of premonitions and things and visions, and he goes into trances. And if you didn't really watch the show, you might look at him and think, "Oh God, he's just faking it." But if you watch the show, actually, he gets a lot of stuff right, and he's actually really on the nose with a lot of it. So you sort of think, well, if he's never been to that location before, he doesn't know where he's going, does he? Right up until
apparently.
So we're told, and he just seems to know an awful lot about what's going on, and so it's good entertainment, isn't it? At the end of the day, whether it's true or not.
Yeah, it is good. And as the seasons went on, rather than being like a true life paranormal study, they started putting a disclaimer at the beginning, didn't they, saying this is for entertainment purposes only. But I will say, with that, the early ones we watched, there were things that were happening, things that were going on when they'd visit a location, which were plausible. Like, oh, this does seem there could be something there. Like, I wouldn't all and out say Derek Okora is a complete crank and he just makes it all up. I'd say Derek Okora is definitely. I think he was in tune with something at points in time, but I think to make a living and for the purposes of that show, to keep a job going at that show, I think he did, just as most mediums do. They just sometimes embellish on things, don't they? Because both of us have visited mediums in the past and spoke to them. And this the last one we went to, and I went in there and I was chewing gum, and they come over to me and they were just like, "We know, we can see your granddad, he's telling you stop chewing that chewing gum." And it's like, that is completely not true. Like, I did, just because I'm chewing gum now didn't mean like bloody 38 years ago I was chewing gum in front of my granddad. And let's be serious, I'm 38 years old, my granddad's probably going to be dead anyway. But at the same breath, she did turn around at that point and say a thing that I've used in a couple of books that as a British saying. She mentioned it. It was an odd thing because people know me for saying it, and it's upstairs for thinking, downstairs for dancing. And this medium said that to me. She goes, "Oh, that means something to you. Someone's saying that to you, and it means something in your life." And weirdly enough, a few weeks later, wasn't it? I went to see someone, and the person who said this to me, this thing about upstairs for thinking, downstairs for dancing, he turned around and said, "Oh yeah, sorry to hear about your dad passed away." And I didn't even have a clue that even happened. It was so recent, he found out before I did. So it was something that connected with what this medium said, and it made sense. So I think a medium can come out with certain things that are true, but I think for that purpose, you're paying them. Or like Derek Okora had a job, I think sometimes you might have to embellish on stuff to prove you're significant, like you've got your worth to be there, So I wouldn't say...
I like to believe he was authentic to a point, and I think it's just difficult knowing where that point is, isn't it, really? And whether you wholeheartedly 100% believe everything he came out with. But also, we started to question the producers of the show, didn't we? Like, we didn't know that Yvette Fielding... Completely. We didn't know Yvette Fielding was actually the producer of the show. It was actually her and her husband's show. They came up with the idea.
And her brother was one of the crew as well, weren't they?
And her brother...
And you think all of them lot are in it together, and they're all in separate places in the house, and then they're going, "Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Oh, did you hear? Oh, what's that noise?" And you're thinking, "Well, is it the brother upstairs, like banging on the pipes?" Like, it just seemed a bit disingenuous, didn't it? It did that because they don't advertise it as they're married and they've got their brother in there. It's like they act like they're complete strangers, and if you think about it, say you had 8 people in the room, and 3 of those people are the best friends, are thick as thieves. They could easily manipulate the others to think things are happening around them when they're not.
Yeah, it's true. You just don't know, do you? That's the thing. But I think as the series went on, once Derek Okora... I don't know how we've ended up just talking about the show.
Just keep going, it's fine. I know, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so as the series went on, there comes a point where Derek Okora leaves the show. And what happened in real life was, we don't exactly know why, but, that was it. Because he was caught cheating, quotation marks. Apparently, somebody, one of the crew...
What was the name? Oh, God, it was like an anagram of Derek's a liar, wasn't it? Do you remember? Yeah. They fed him a name.
Hang on. Yeah, so they left... So it was another guy who was on the crew who was a skeptic. They would always have a skeptic there just for balance to go around with them, and it gave like a balanced view. And this skeptic, I don't know who he was, but he left out a note and sort of pointed Derek toward it and said, look, that will help you out, sort of thing. And it was a name of someone, a spirit that was meant to have lived there. And then Derek, lo and behold, comes out with that exact name on the show. And it wasn't a real name. It was completely made up. And it was an anagram of...
Derek lies. It was Derek lies or Derek cheats, wasn't it? It was something...
Yes, something like that. And so he read it out, and then it was like, oh, okay, he's definitely cheating because, he's just reading out bits of paper people are giving him and pretending that it's something real. So we don't know. We don't know for sure what went on there.
I've just found it. I just Googled it. Creed Kafka, which was an anagram of Derek Faker. So they left that name laying around. And it was like one of those... It was a live one, wasn't it? And he started, and Derek went into a trance and started going, I can feel him. Is a presence here? Oh, I've always taken over my body. Always, it's Creed, Kafka. Oh, I'm a strong. And then it's just like, oh, Derek, you just lost your job, mate. You fell for it.
Yeah, and we've had lots of theories about it, haven't we? Like, what actually happened? Was it that he got sacked by Yvette and her husband because he'd basically blown their cover? And they had known he was cheating all along, and they didn't mind about it because it was obviously good for their show and it helped their show. So were the three of them in on it together from the start, and then he blew it, and then he had to go for the sake of their show, or was he genuinely faking it and they didn't know, and they always thought he was real, and then suddenly found out, oh, we've just hired this guy who's a complete fraud for all these seasons. And do you remember what we found about his contract? Derek had a contract, didn't he? And in his contract, it said that if you ever come out and tell anything behind the scenes about anything that goes on, then we can just take back all the money we've paid you over the years. So that's why no one ever came. It's like they both had something to lose, whether it be face, reputation. There was something there which doesn't seem to ring true. But then I found something online about one of the other mediums further down the line. They were doing similar things to that, trying to just dodgy sounding contracts for people, and he didn't want to be part of it. So I think if you're going to watch Most Haunted, you got to watch it, just thinking it's entertainment. And I think there's got to be a cut-off point, because I genuinely would say that it gets worse as it goes on. Like that belief that, like, if you wanted to believe in the afterlife, I think that show, if you'd watch like we try to do, watch season after season, I think you'd disbelieve even more as it goes on, because they get so fantastical. Whereas before, in the first few episodes, you might get, oh, what was that odd spot of light on the camera, followed by, oh, there was an odd sound here. To when you get to like season 5, every 5 minutes, it's like the bloody room out of Poltergeist with things flying around everywhere. Oh, look, there was something else, and there was something else. And it's all stuff, it was just too much, and it's stuff you could never prove. Oh, there was another noise. Or what was that? Or felt and how many bloody times did that Cole, I've got a headache, I've got a headache. Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the easiest thing to fake in the world on camera, isn't it? It's just like, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't do anything. All someone's got to do is put the fingers to the temples and say, I've got a headache now. Oh, well, it must be spirits. It's like, come on, please.
Okay, well, moving on, because I think we talked about
I would say watch it. I would say watch Most Haunted.
Definitely give it a go. And it's low budget, and it's pretty simple premise, and it's really believable. And Yvette Fielding is a real scaredy cat in it. She's constantly like really, really scared at everything. But it's good because it adds to it. Now, whether she's faking it or not for the entertainment purposes, but then, so many of these shows are like that anyway, aren't they? So it's really going to be down to what you think when you watch it. But anyway, we enjoyed it more than we thought we would. And that's kind of to sum that one up. So
a little recommendation for you there to check out.
I mean, there's so many of these shows floating around, but that was just one that we picked up on just because we'd never watched it. We'd never given it a chance before, and then actually years later we actually thought, oh, it's actually not that bad. Okay, so moving on, we are going to review a film that we watched recently. Now, I've seen this film 3 times in total. The third time I saw it with you, which was last week. You had never seen this film, had you? You had it on a DVD.
I had it. Like many things, I had it in the library of DVDs marked unwatched, but I've never actually bloody watched the
But
thing.
you never watched it until...
And I've had it
I was like,
and I've literally had it for about 7 years, and I've never watched it.
Wow.
And I've recommended it to people and said, "Oh, you should watch that. It's really good." I've never even seen it.
How could you recommend a film you've never seen before?
It sounds good. It just sounds good. There's this film. There's this film. Oh, if you like, they were talking about something similar. Oh, there's this film about such and such. And I said, "Oh, yeah, you should watch this one. I've got it." Well, I didn't lie. I've got it. I just haven't bloody watched it.
Yeah, but it could have been terrible, and you were recommending people to watch it.
Well, it doesn't matter, does it?
Okay, anyway, the movie that we're talking about is Frozen. No, we're not talking about the Disney version. And I also found other versions out there. There's a lot of different films called Frozen, but no, this is the Frozen that was released in 2010. And it was directed by Adam Green. It stars Shawn Ashmore, Emma Bell, and Kevin Zegers. I think that's how you pronounce his surname.
I think that's right, yeah.
Which are pretty much the total cast, just the three of them. There's a few other people, but ultimately,
Kane Hodder turns up, who was Jason in Friday the 13th, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he has kind of a
yeah.
cameo part in it, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he turns up.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to quickly read the synopsis just so we get an idea. It's at Mount Holliston, snowboarders Dan Walker, his girlfriend Parker O'Neill, and his best friend Joe Lynch don't have enough money to buy lift tickets. Parker bribes Jason, a lift worker, with $100. When the system is nearing closure, they force Jason to let them have one last pass. However, Jason needs to resolve a problem and his colleague misunderstands his instructions and stops the lift. The trio of skiers and snowboarders get stranded on the chairlift near the top of the mountain. When they see that the lights of the ski resort have been turned off, they need to make a choice: leave the chairlift or freeze to death. Dun, dun, dun. So... in a nutshell, David. In a nutshell, yeah. What were your feelings on this movie?
Yeah, I loved it. It's probably one of the. I'm a real horror. There you go. I'm a real horror connoisseur, and I'd probably say in the last 10 years, there's only been a small handful of horror films I've gone, yeah, I really like that. And that'd be, really like It Follows, and I really like The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Those two are really, I think they're the best two that I've seen in the last 10 years. But this, I was really surprised. This is up there as one of my favourite films in the last 10 years. I think if I was going to list three, it'd be Frozen and the other two that I just mentioned. It just worked for me. Just the simple premise, being stuck up there. I mean, it's such a relatable thing. And the interesting thing, I had a quick look online. And some of the things what people were saying about it was like they're really dislikable characters that go up there, and I couldn't relate. Yeah, I know, and they couldn't relate to them. And yeah, they're not the most. One of the guys is not the most likable person in the world, but they seem like the kind of people who'd be going up snowboarding. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they seem like the kind of yeah. I didn't disbelieve these people would be in that place doing that thing. And one of them is a bit of a douchebag, but as it goes on, I think anyone put in that situation is going to act like a human being, and their true colours are going to come through. And as it goes on, you just find out more about them. And they don't seem like one-dimensional characters. There seems to be more to them than meets the eye. You know, every one of them's got some sort of depth to them.
Yeah,
and I thought the characters were fine. I liked them by the end of it. I mean, like at the beginning, they just seemed. I know they didn't seem like any more different from, like a 2000s Final Destination movie kind of character, but. As it went on and you began to find stuff about them and put in that situation, I think you could have quite a lot of empathy for them, And I thought that was I thought Frozen was genuinely as scary as something like Alien. It's got that element to it of you're trapped in a place where there's no escape, and I don't like things that are underwater where you're trapped. Like I've got a real phobia of things underwater. Don't like that. I don't like things where you're trapped in space. That does my head in as well, and this kind of tapped into both of them being trapped up high on this bloody ski lift, and how they get down just makes me. It's one of those films where you're screaming at the screen because you're just like, oh my god, don't do that or do that, just go. Or emotionally, it really made an impact for me watching that thing.
Yeah, so same for me, really. Everything you said pretty much echoes what I think. Yeah, it was the whole premise of the fact that there was just three of them up there, and it was really simple, but it didn't need to be anything more than that. They were in one location.
But I think the interesting question about that film is, and I think is the question that comes up when anyone watches that film, is what would you have done in that situation?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, because you're so limited with your choices, aren't you? It's like you either stay on the lift and die of hypothermia, or jump off and, you know, who knows what's going to happen at the bottom without giving it away. But it's not good to jump from a ski lift that's like, what, 50 feet in the air? 50 feet, was it?
I think it was higher than 50 foot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was higher than that.
Yeah, so really high. I mean, you know, you're going to do some damage if you jump off that thing, and then what do you do? Because you'll be useless. So it's a really...
Yeah, but what would you have done? If you were in that situation, what would you have done? I'm asking you.
Okay. I think I probably would have stayed where I was. I've been on a ski lift before. I went skiing in the Alps in Italy when I was like in year 10. And honestly, those ski lifts are really high. Like, they're really high. And the thought of sitting on a ski lift, looking down and thinking, right, can I jump? Honestly, I don't think I could. And I think it's a really risky thing to do. And even though I know staying put is really difficult, I would just think to myself, right, we're on a ski resort. Okay, it might be closed for 5 days, but you never know. Someone might come by, you know, some maintenance man or someone might come by. If we sit here long enough, if we keep shouting and screaming, I know it's really tough because it's freezing, isn't it? And you're battling the elements, but still, I don't think I would think jumping is a good idea. What would you do?
Jump.
Yeah, you would jump, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have just waited until the next morning because they knew that blizzard was coming in, and I would have sat up on that bloody ski lift, balled up, pulled my jacket all around my face. I'd have been like a mummy up there. I'd just been a little cocoon sat up there, and I would have sat up there in my little cocoon, waited till the next day, I had just measured something visually in my mind. I looked at a tree and thought, okay, so the snow's at that depth now. Wait for the blizzard to go the next morning. If that's gone up by about 4 foot, I would have thought, right, do a jump, go for it.
So if you are able to watch it, we say watch it. And how many stars would you give it out of 5 or 10? What do you think?
How many stars? Shouldn't it be snowballs? Can we give it snowballs out of 10?
Yeah, give it snowballs out of 10 then. How many snowballs would you give it?
I'd give this 8 snowballs. I really would.
I think I agree, actually, yeah. I think it's 100% perfect? No, maybe not, but definitely really good. Yeah.
Better than it. Do you know what? From a guy, because I've seen Adam Green's other films, and he's done this slasher stuff like Hatchet, and I've never liked any of it. And this was like in between doing that kind of stuff. So that's why I never watched it. But I went in to watch it and I was like, this guy's a really good filmmaker. And I don't think he's ever done anything as good as this. And I think in years to come, people are going to look back and say this is like a near perfect film. I think in retrospect, people are going to look on it and say this is better than we remembered. And I think it definitely deserves an 8. 8 snowballs.
Cool. Okay, brilliant. So that is our first review.
Okay, so we've been doing the podcast for the past month. I think we've got 5 episodes out now, 6 episodes out now by the time this is done. Should be 6, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
And we've gone through a lot of stories, and we're constantly going through a lot of stories. But over the month of January 2021, what are your favourite stories that we've produced and put out there already? What's your favourite January stories?
So, for me, I really like the story we did in episode 1. There was 2 incidents that happened to a lady called Bobby who gave me her stories. I know Bobby anyway, sort of through social media and Facebook, and she was kind enough to share 2 of these stories with me, and I really like them. I particularly like the second one, the gnome one, where she finds these 2 sort of human-sized gnomes essentially sitting in this overgrown garden. And I know it's kind of funny. It's like a funny story, but actually I find it really, really creepy. And I think just because it's so odd and it's so kind of like, you know, yeah, you could say, oh, well, they were just people dressed up or people on drugs or whatever you might say. But actually, it's really weird. It's just a really strange concept. And I would really shit myself if I saw something like that. Like if I went to this empty abandoned house that was, well, I think it was being sold, but it seemed like it was empty. And you go around the back and there's this overgrown grass and there's 2 people dressed like gnomes sitting there staring at you. I'd be really...
They wasn't dressed like gnomes, were they? They didn't have little red hats on.
Yeah, they did.
Boots and stuff.
Yeah, they had...
They were dressed like gnomes.
Yeah.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, well...
Really?
Yeah, they had pointy hats on. and one had a bright yellow jumper, the other had a bright blue jumper. If they weren't dressed like gnomes, it wouldn't really be a story. That's the whole point of the story, that they were gnome-like people. They were dressed like gnomes, yeah. So
maybe they were just like vertically challenged people, though.
They might have been, who knows? But anyway,
it might have just been normal human beings. We might be discriminating. We might have just like taken two like dwarfs. It was sitting in their back garden.
No, I don't
turned
think
into a paranormal story.
I don't think they were dwarfs. She never said they were short or dwarfs or anything like that. She just said that the way they were dressed was like gnomes, and they were sitting there cross-legged, and they were staring at her, grinning. I mean, that's bizarre, isn't it? Like, I just think that's really creepy. I love it. I think it's a great story. And the other one that I really love Peter Halpin's stories. Particularly one where he had a car crash. I know Peter from when
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I was just to explain briefly. I'm Peter's a friend of mine from when I used to do acting. He's an actor. He also does voiceover, and he's a stand-up comedian, so he does quite a few different things. And he kindly shared with me these two stories. I mean, he'd never told me these before, but they're totally genuine. Peter is a completely genuine guy. And the first was the haunting at a pub that he worked a few years ago, and the second was where he had a car crash. He was working for a taxi firm, and it was raining, and he was late, and the taxi firm was putting pressure on him to get there quickly, and basically he ended up crashing the car into a tree. But what was so what was strange about it was that the particular song that he was listening to was Leader of the Pack. So this is a pop song from 1964. It was, what was the band? They were called
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La, yeah,
Shangri-La.
That's the one. And I just think it's a really creepy story. The fact that he was listening to this song when he crashed the car, and it was just at the point of the song where she goes, "Look out, look out," when he's about to crash. Like, what are the chances you're going to be listening to that just as you crash your car?
Yeah, but I think that's a good example of the kind of things, like, because we're always saying we want creepy stories and stuff, and I think everyone thinks that, oh yeah, you just want ghost stories. But it's like stories of chance and happenstance and odd things happening, anything that's a good, strange, entertaining story rather than just
oh yeah, exactly
ghosts.
Yeah. But
I think this is a good example of that. I think this is the good example of the kind of things that we would cover in Deadly Debbie's Creepy Files.
Absolutely, that's the whole thing. Like, it's not just ghosts, it's not just hauntings, it is just weird, strange encounters, odd moments, past recollections, doppelgangers. It's all sorts of different things, just strange, odd things that have happened to you that you can't explain, you know, that maybe you didn't want to tell anyone about because you felt stupid or didn't think anyone was going to believe you. But write it down, put it into a story, send it to us, and it might get read out on the show. So so what story stands out for you, David?
Definitely Peter Halpin's one. That one about the song. Definitely the car crash. That's 100%, because it's believable. It's strange enough. I'm not saying I disbelieve things. Do you know what I mean? Like the stories you had in, but I think for anyone, the general average person listening to that story would believe that story, because it's just a story of coincidence, really, and it's a strange coincidence. So I like that. I think that one, and I do like the one with the girl in the red bikini. That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Yeah,
I like that. The girl in the red. That's it's that thing. Do you know what I mean? Like with. Just say, like, with generally ghost stories, hauntings, strange things that happen. It's even with films and everything now. You get a story, and it'd be like everything happens. There'd be like a bloody girl with black hair running down the hallway, and something popping out the cupboard. And it's just too much. But that girl in the red bikini, it's just like there's so little that actually happens. Just seeing someone walking, and that's all you need. Just something that's odd that you can't explain. And I find that definitely more eerie and creepy than anything over the top. And I think that one just had enough in there to. There was enough of a narrative that this girl in the red bikini wanted to lure someone into a pool, and it's never really said outright that's what it is, but that's the feeling you get.
And
from
the fact
that
that the fact that she's actually in a red bikini is different, isn't it? You don't often hear about ghosts wearing bikinis.
There's, you know, you could argue that thing about what the bloody hell's a ghost doing wearing any clothes anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's an odd thing anyway if you think about it. Like, what? Well, the clothes died with the person.
I don't know. I don't find that odd, actually. I find that quite believable, because if you believe that ghosts, were humans and they had an earthly life, then they would obviously want to be seen as.
If there were forms of energy, if say there was a form of energy that's come back, then why would the clothes come back with them?
Well, because the clothes are part of their sort of like their. I'm trying to think of the word. It's part of their costume in a way. Like, it's part of who they are, isn't it? They probably wear clothes in the afterlife. Why wouldn't they?
How uncomfortable would you feel knowing that in the afterlife you'd be naked?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be naked.
How weird would that be? What about if someone come back and they said, "Right, I've been there and I know," and when you die, you're naked.
Well, yeah, but then you've probably got an amazing, body, haven't you? Probably everyone looks like a Greek god up there. I mean,
No, but just say you look. Yeah, but they turn around and they say, "Yeah, but you look exactly like you do on Earth now." Would that make you want to go to the gym? Just so that when you die, you're going to look good.
Oh no, not really. I don't think that would bother that many people that much.
Some people.
I better start doing some sit-ups, because when I die, everyone's going to see my belly. No,
just in case the angel wings don't lift me off the ground.
No, I think it's completely believable that ghosts would wear clothes. I feel like that is part. I feel like if we're seeing them, and we're seeing them with hair and facial features and all the things we saw, that they were as a human, then why wouldn't you see them wearing clothes?
But why would you say that ghost came back in a red bikini?
Because she liked wearing.
That's a very male thing, isn't it? Because the whole story is about she's extremely attractive and alluring, and she's wearing a red bikini.
Well, maybe that was her thing. She knew that by walking, she was very clever. She knew by walking around in a red bikini, she was going to catch these men's eyes and mess around with them. And, who knows? Maybe she died in a swimming pool or something.
Yeah, but what do you think the end goal? What do you think the end goal of that ghost would have been? If, say, that this thing came back from the dead and it's walking around in a red bikini, what do you think it's trying to do? And why do you think it's a ghost if it's doing something like that? Because it sounds like it's some sort of demon.
Possibly, but I mean, it sounds very... like she's trying to seduce people, isn't she? She's drawing them in with her feminine, sexy ways and look. And, I mean, most guys, if they saw a woman in a red bikini, they're going to look, aren't they? And they're going to be, who's that? And then she's in...
Yeah, but why do you think it was trying to do that? Why do you think that ghost... So you think it was like a malevolent force rather than anything...
Well, the woman had...
She didn't just come back like, I'm sick and tired of walking around heaven naked. I'm just going to come back down to earth in a red bikini. That did the job.
Well, because we know she wasn't a nice spirit, because she tried to strangle the woman, didn't she? Whose apartment it was. So we know she wasn't nice.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
So we know she wasn't nice. So who knows? If that guy had taken her hand and, I don't know, if he joined her in the pool, then who knows what would happen? Maybe his body would have been found floating in there or something awful. Maybe she wanted him to join her on the dark side. Who knows?
I think the last thing you need is that bloke who told us that story waking up in heaven and going, "Bloody hell, mate, where's all my clothes gone?" I don't...
David's just offended all of our Australian viewers, so I do apologise for that bad accent.
Well, it was Australian.
I know it was Australian, but your accent isn't Australian, mate.
Bloody hell, mate.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like a really exaggerated Australian accent. But bloody hell, mate! Put another
bloody hell, mate! I couldn't believe it. I went straight to heaven.
I'm probably more.
Everyone was dead.
I watch a lot more Australian shows than you, don't I? So I probably know more how they sound.
Yeah, but I'm not even really trying.
No, fair enough. Well, anyway, there you go. Girl in the Red Bikini. We loved Peter Halpin's stories. I loved the gnome story in episode 1. Check it out. There's lots of different stories on there. We're up to episode 6 now.
I think there needs to be a special mention. I think there needs to be a special mention for these stories. That which one's a special mention.
What do you mean?
Of the stories from last month. So we had 2 each, but I think special mention should be, "I'll give you a ride." Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Telly Savalas. So we found a documented story about Telly Savalas, who was an actor in the 70s, wasn't he? I think he went on to the 80s and 90s. He was in James Bond, wasn't he? And Kojak and stuff.
He was Kojak. He was Horror Express.
Yeah.
He was, I found out. Do you know what? I found out why he was always had those lollipops. Because I got. Remember when we watched Lisa and the Devil? We watched half of it, didn't we, the other day? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And later on in that, he's walking around, he's got a lollipop. And I thought, what is this thing with lollipops? And the only reason he had lollipops in all the films and the TV shows is because he wanted to stop smoking. So he started sucking lollipops and it just became his thing.
Oh, that's why.
That's why he's got lollipops in everything.
Or maybe, like, he was sucking the lollipop off set one day and then someone pointed it out to him, like the director or producer or something, and said, hey, that looks good, you should do that in the show. And maybe that just became a thing. Because
well, he plays bloody Satan in Lisa and the Devil, doesn't he? He's walking around with lollipops then. I thought, what is not really?
See, that's quite that's a seductive thing, isn't it? Walking around sucking on a lollipop.
What's the point?
What?
Look at the state of his head. He looks like a lollipop.
David, that's very rude. I love Telly Savalas. He's great.
Yeah, so do I, but I can't say
call him a
thinking about
lollipop.
looking at I can't say looking at Telly Savalas sucking on a lollipop, being a man, is a very seductive thing to think about. It's just like,
I don't know.
No.
There's a lot of women out there that found Telly Savalas to be quite sexy, so he had that charisma, didn't he? Well, he had a really nice deep voice, didn't he? And he had that thing going on, and he was a bit of a sex symbol, Telly Savalas, I think.
If you're into the kind of men that you can polish their heads, I can understand that. Yeah, I get it.
All right, David's just offended all the anyone without any hair.
I'm joking. It's just for fun.
Okay.
It's just for fun.
So
Don't worry.
moving on. So yeah, okay. So I think we've talked about the stories enough. So basically, check them out. There's all sorts of different stories on there, and we have different readers reading them out. We do try to get the actual person who experienced the story to read them out, if possible, because it sounds authentic and it's nice to hear from the person that experienced it. But otherwise, we have guest readers, or I read them out, and so check it out. And where can people find us? Apples.
What was that? What was that check out about? You went Nina Cherry again then. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Check it out, bruv. Okay.
Check it out.
So basically, people can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, everywhere you get your podcasts. You will find...
They're all there.
Yeah.
They're all on there.
You will find Deadly Debbie's Creepy Files. And if you could do us a massive favour and subscribe...
And rate and review.
If you could do all three of those, that would be amazing as well. And the reason is because... Well, basically, it looks good because people go on there and they're like, oh, they've got loads of reviews and they must be good, so we'll check them out. So, yeah. And it's just nice, isn't it, to have a recommendation from people that actually listen to the show.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we also have a secret Facebook group, so please come and join that. Basically, we just throw around video clips and photos and share stories and all sorts of creepy, weird, strange things. So yeah, come and join in with the group. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And if you have a scary, weird, strange, unexplained story for us, please do send them in. We would love to hear from you. We have a website, deadlydebbie.com, so you can submit the story through there, or you can just send it straight through your email to deadlydebbie@mail.com. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. And
thank you very much. I hope you've been enjoying Deadly Debbie's Creepy Files for last month and continue to listen for further months into the future.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't bored you too much with this episode. We don't really know if this is going to work or if this is really what people want.
This is just like, I think we're finding more about, how this is going to be, because we want to do a roundup every month. And I think I think it should just be like a free-flowing thing. We just talk about stuff and mess around and... I think the work stands for itself in the creepy.
Well, what we might do is eventually when we have a Patreon, we're thinking of having a Patreon at some point. Not quite yet, but we might have one, and we might put this in as like an extra thing every month in the Patreon. So it really depends. If you guys like it and you enjoy listening to us rambling on, then that's fine. But we understand the podcast. The main thing about the podcast is the episodes and the stories. But we just thought we would. Well, we just thought it'd be nice, really, to introduce us, as the producers and.
But it's just a faceless thing, isn't it? You don't really know who we are or where it comes from and what's going on. It's just a little sneak peek behind the scenes, really, isn't it, of who we are and what we're like. And
this is the crap that we talk, basically. So hopefully we haven't bored you too much, but let us know what you think anyway. So that's it really. So how do we end?
I don't know. See you next month. Bye.
See you next month. Bye-bye.